Good evening and welcome to FabFit TV. I am your host, Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I help women over 40 to feel fit, comfortable, and confident in their bodies so that they can live a life of no more doubts, no more rules, and feel free. So, tonight is a really good topic. It's a topic that's been coming up for a lot of people, and so I really wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive. And what I want to explore today is all about flexible dieting. And so, what do I mean by flexible dieting? So, typically, we've been programmed that in order to lose weight, get fit, get healthy, I have to follow some particular program, be it keto, Weight Watchers, Whole 30, paleo. Like, there's some formalized blueprint program that I gotta follow if I want to have any results. Because if you think about it, recently my sister, she lost weight, and everyone's like, "Girl, what'd you do?" And everyone wanted to know what the holy grail was. And basically, she was like, "Well, my holy grail was I stopped drinking wine every night and I started moving my body." What diet is that? Is that the Kendra? I don't know what that. It does. That's basic for me as a fitness professional. That's basics. Like, stop eating crap. I gotta keep it PG. We're on public TV here. Stop eating crap and move your body. Oh my God, that I could write a whole book and make millions on that, right? It's not rocket science. And so my concept of flexible dieting is that we got to break up with the plan. We've been marketed to for years, decades, about the plan. I was recently listening to a podcast all about fat. And the woman spent 5 years researching fat. And when I mean fat, I'm talking about body fat, I'm talking about fat in foods, like the whole bit. Like anything that has to do with fat, she spent 5 years breaking it down. And if you have, looked at any history, if you go back in colonial times, if someone was fat, they were wealthy. Fat was something to be aspired to. If we also look back into like the 50s and the 60s, it was very aspirational to be curvy. And then at some point, someone said, you need to be, you need to be a size 2, weigh 3 pounds, and eat grapes all day. And we all got obsessed with dieting. And so at some point we became, obsessed with what program, what plan are you on when it comes to dieting. And so this is what I know. We can follow a plan until the plan doesn't work. And the plan doesn't work for a myriad of reasons. And so I don't know about you, but I'm uncle. Like, declare uncle. I'm done. I'm over following a plan. And that's where flexible dieting comes in. That's where, let me just back up. Let's first do vocabulary. When I talk about diet, I don't mean a plan. That's not what I mean. When I say diet, I'm talking about what you physically put into your mouth. What are you eating? That's what I'm calling diet. And so we need to look at what we're currently eating before we can make an assessment. So it's like if I were to go to the doctor and say, these are my symptoms, that's exactly what your diet is. Your diet shows me what are you currently eating. Because for the most part, most of the women I work with, they eat pretty good. When I meet you, you're eating probably about 70%. And all it takes is a few minor, tweaks and twogs, and you're going to start to see some of the results. And, we all know the foods that we should be eating a little less of. And we know the foods we should be eating a little more of. That's not the problem, right? The problem is we feel like we need to follow this like particular train track, and this train track is going to lead us to, the glory land, the diet mecca, the diet where have you ever seen the movie Pulp Fiction? And if you haven't seen the movie Pulp Fiction, in the movie, two guys are looking for this suitcase. And in this suitcase, you don't really know what's in the suitcase, but every time you see the suitcase, it has this glow. And that's what people are searching for. They're searching for their diet Pulp Fiction. They're looking for that glow, that just feeling that's just going to be like, I made it. And then, guess what? When you made it, you got to sustain it. And that's where people fall down. And that's where flexible dieting comes in. Because flexible dieting is sustainable. Flexible dieting is about you. So I got some questions for you to answer with when you look at a plan or a program. Don't go for what's popular. Right now, everyone's all keto for days, right? But for some people, eating that much fat is too much. Eating that little carb, they feel like someone ran over them and then backed up 3 times on them. How do you eat? What are the foods that you like to eat? What's your lifestyle? Because if it's something that requires you to cook and you're just like, that's not about me, what's your budget? Are you having to buy all these magical elixirs? Are you going to have to buy high-end things? Like, what does it look like? And how long can you see yourself doing this? About 2 years ago, I had to go vegan. And it was mainly just to clean up my hormones. And I knew it was short term. But for me, I knew that lifestyle wasn't sustainable. I knew I could do it for 6 months. I knew that I could totally gut this through for 6 months. But could I do this for the next 60 years? Oh, hell no. Because for me, it was a lot of cooking. And I cook, but I don't want to have to cook every single meal. And I don't like tofu. So to go out, it was always like, oh, vegan? Tofu. No, there's more to life than tofu for vegans. I'm off the soapbox. So I need you to answer those questions and be honest with yourself. Because I want you to look at things as, could I do this for the next year? Could I do this for the next 5 years? Could I do this for the next 10 years? And if you say no, then that's not the plan for you. All right? So you have to decide, what's your approach? Many people, when I say, hey, so what's your approach? Many people will tell me, I'm just all or nothing. If I'm either on it or I'm off it. And I'm like, how has that served you? When you are so gung-ho, I got to be on this train track of, to the diet destination, or I'm just sitting on the couch with a straw and a bottle of wine past the ho-hos and the goldfish, how has that lifestyle served you where you're hardcore, no core, hardcore, no core, right? So wouldn't you want it to be different? Because I see it. I see it in your faces. I hear it in your voices when you're just like, I can't anymore. I want to be able to go on vacation. I want to be able to walk into my closet. One day Mother Nature will give us spring and put on your spring clothes and not stress, is those pair of pants from last spring gonna fit my tush? I want you to have that confidence, you know what? Go into my closet and anything in here that's going to fit my tush. So think about the potential. How hard is it going to be? How much weight are you trying to lose? What will you have to give up foods that you love? What will you need to just sustain this? And what are the thoughts that you have as you are reading through the do's and the don'ts, right? What are your thoughts? Because at the end of the day, a lot of people are knowledge brokers. They can take in all the knowledge. They can listen to this. They can listen to podcasts. They can watch YouTube videos. And then, take all the notes, analyze till next Thursday, but still not take the action. So action is where the rubber meets the road. And until I actually, take that big step back and I analyze, what am I doing? And then decide where I want to go, I can't take action. And I find that a lot of people, and I've talked about this, you got to set goals. And you have to be not afraid to set goals, because I get it. You may have disappointed yourself in the past. Trust me, have I hit every goal I've ever set? Heck no. Not at all. But I know the pain of me being in the same place again and again and again, and running into the same wall over and over again, bugs the insert your favorite dirty word out of me. And I don't want to be in that position. So whenever I do miss my goal, I ask myself why. And I don't beat myself up. I give myself the grace. And I say, well, did I bite off more than I could chew? There's something else going on in my life that I couldn't give it the focus. And I try to give myself that grace, give myself that space before, back in the day, I will admit, I would be like, you suck, you're stupid, you can't ever do it. And where did that get me? Nowhere. So if I could take that step back, and if you can't take that step back, that's why you work with a coach or an accountability partner, because they can be that third party to be like, okay, girl, here's where you give yourself that grace. Here's where you give yourself that space, that time, so that you can, do a CSI, right? You've watched the show. They come in, dead body on the floor, and they, piece together, oh, okay, the broken lamp, so she must have fallen here, that someone must have walked in there. We all know. And that's what you do. You kind of, before you get into action, you kind of say, this is where I've been, this is where I want to go, and we're going to piece together the plan in order for you to get there. But I don't want you to just plan to plan. I want you to plan to say, I got to move my tushy. So here's where I like to keep it simple, right? I like to make my action plan really simple. So for me to assess where you are, for me to assess where I am, is what I'm currently eating, my diet, am I hungry? On a scale of, 1 to 10, where 10 means I'm going to eat my arm, to 0 being like I'm stuffed to the gills, where am I? The second thing is, how's my energy? Do I feel like woohoo all day long, or do I feel like I'm crashing and burning? Do I feel like I'm always wanting to take a nap? Am I like living off of coffee? Where am I? And the same thing, 0 meaning I'm bouncing off the walls, 10 meaning I'm almost in a coma, right? So where are you when it comes to your energy? And then cravings. Are you in the place that you're craving? 0 meaning like every craving is knocking on the door and you're white knuckling it. 10, what cravings? I don't know what those are. I don't have any. So those are like the first 3 questions I ask. Then I go into non-food questions. Sleep. Are you sleeping? And are you getting quality sleep? Some people will tell me like, yeah, I sleep 6 hours, but then they'll tell me, well, I go to the bathroom and then I'm up for an hour after I go to the bathroom, or I toss and turn, so I'm not really getting a good night's sleep. So it's like, those kind of things. Are you moving? I've talked about this before. I wear a Fitbit because I really want to make sure that I'm getting in my 10,000 steps. So are you? Some people work out and then they sit at a desk all day long, and that's their only movement is to get up and go to the bathroom. So are you moving? And then what's your stress level? Are you like, again, on that 0 to 10, 0 meaning like people are like, girl, you alive? To like you're running around with your hair on fire. Like, where are you? Because all of these factors will weigh heavily into what you're taking in for your diet. Okay? And if you notice, most of my questions weren't about, are you eating this superfood? Are you eating that vegetable? It wasn't about that. It was like, in this moment in time, is what you're eating serving you? Based on, this like base level of criteria. And, I see it all over the interwebs, and you see it too. The question is like, what's the best fat burning food? What's the best sugar-free food? How do you feel about protein ice cream? How do I feel about, insert the question. And do those questions inspire you to take action? Or do they ask you to ask more questions and not take the action, right? That's the question I have for you. If my questions do not inspire, then I need to ask better questions. My boyfriend Tony Robbins always says, ask better questions and you'll get better answers. So when I'm in that action phase, I'm all about what is it going to take for me to move my feet? What is it going to take for me to go from what I know I want to where I want to go? And then I got to say, okay, what are the results, right? Is my current diet yielding my results? If my goal is to lose my belly, boost my booty, have more energy, dump my cravings, is what I'm eating doing that? And I mean, you see, for me, I was eating clean for years. If you look at my nutrition, you'd be like, oh my gosh, you eat great, right? And I was eating great, but for some reason I hit a plateau. I hit a wall, and I couldn't. Like we all go on vacation. We want to get off those last few pounds before you go on vacation, and that was me. I wanted to I just wanted to get a little tighter, and for some reason I'm like, I can't do it. And I asked, I had someone look over my shoulder. I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, because for yourself, you can't be the voice of reason, because you're like, I'm awesome, I'm doing amazing, or you're like, I suck, I'm doing horrible. Like, you can't have that middle ground of like, well, girl, this is what you need to do. Like, most of us can't do that with ourselves. So I had a third party look over my shoulder, and for the most part, I was eating great, but I was eating too much for what I was doing. So I needed to tweak some of my choices. And that's what I find with a lot of clients is that, oh, excuse me, they need to tweak some of their choices. So, maybe it's not having two chia waffles. Like, there's nothing wrong with chia waffles. They're great. But maybe instead of having two in a meal, you bring it down to one and you add in some cottage cheese, right? And so it's those kind of like those yin and yang, yeah, yin and yang, that give and take of that. And so if you notice, I didn't follow a plan. I had to step back and had to be flexible in my approach, right? So it was like focus on making sure that, my choices weren't over the top. And, when you break up with the right and the wrong and you see what foods feel right for you, I believe I've talked about this before, but just in case, I've had a client who she's like, I'm just starting to feel bloated and just horrible after I eat. And I said, okay, that could be anything. So what I need for you to do is keep a log, and every time you feel bloated and this blah, I'd love for you to write down when. And so, and just, every time you eat a meal, I just want you to just ask the question, do I feel bloated? And, over the course of a few weeks, she, was logging, and she found out that it was coconut oil. You read all over the interwebs, coconut oil is the bomb.com, and 3 times on Sunday. But for her, coconut oil wasn't the bomb.com. It for some reason, there was something in coconut oil in her that no bueno. So I want you to think about, if I break up with the good food, bad food list, I just focus on how do I feel. For me, I can't eat eggs. Like scrambled egg whites. If I would eat scrambled egg whites, I'm like, so what's next? Like 20 minutes later, I'm like, and what's next? Like, it's the ultimate protein, super healthy. There's nothing wrong with egg whites. They just don't do anything for me. Other people, they're like, oh my God, egg whites. I love them. Like, I can make out with them. But for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'll pass. And I want to like them, but my body's just like, it just metabolizes them too fast that I'm like, my next meal, it needs to be like almost immediate. So I want you to, if you aren't tracking your food, start tracking. I know it's a pain in the rump shaker, but the beauty of it nowadays is that, there's apps on your phone. Handwrite it. Just keep it simple, right? And if you need a third party to look over your shoulder and see what's going on, hit me up. You can always find me on my website, fabfitsquad.com, or you can always find me on Facebook or Instagram, Kim Jefferson Coach. So the reason why many of us follow a plan versus kind of taking the approach I talked about, seeing what our diet is and figuring out where the extras are, because most of us have extras that we can start to curtail back. We also can look and see if there are things that we should add in. Most people probably aren't eating as many vegetables as they should be, or aren't eating as many good fats, or probably aren't getting in as much protein as they should. But what happens is we all want certainty. We want to know that if I do what you say, it's going to work like a charm. It's going to work as advertised. And unfortunately, with nutrition, we are all bio individuals. What's going to work for me is going to work for the guy that just walked by on the street. That isn't going to work for the woman who is my producer. We all have different needs and different tweaks that need to be made in order to satisfy our own individual metabolism. So the certainty I give you is that if you take the time to figure out how your body works, you'll never die a day in your life. I know that for certain. So what you need to do is explore the alternatives to dieting. Because certainty, as I've said before, comes from asking better questions. And the better questions aren't the good food, bad food list, or can I have this list, right? We are all grown people. And I want you to think about, whatever program you're looking at, can you afford it? For a long period of time, not just for 30 days, not just for 10 days. Like, can you afford it for a year? Does this limit you, right? Do you have negotiability in it? Because I know for me, I have one non-negotiable two non-negotiables in my nutrition. So my one non-negotiable is like, I will fist fight you over coffee. I'm just not going to give that up. I'm going to have coffee, and I will, if my results slow because I'm having coffee, so be it. The second thing is, I want to at least be able to once a week go out to dinner and not eat like a jerk, but go out and not be like, does it have this in it? And does it, not interrogate the chef and pretty much go in the kitchen and like make my own meal, because been there, done that, and I don't want that t-shirt anymore. So those are my two non-negotiables. So when I first started this whole flexible dieting, I was like, that's what I'm going to build my kind of like my nutrition around. And then I said, okay, those are my like fun things that's going to make my life sane. Then I said, what is nutritionally going to help me long term? And one of the things nutritionally I put in there was that I wanted to make sure I got in all my vegetables. And so in order to get all my vegetables, every single day I have a giant salad, right? And that salad always varies because depending on the season, right? So I change up the salad green that I use. I change up if it's carrots or if it's cabbage or if it's red cabbage. Sometimes I have broccoli slaw. So I always make sure that there's something new in the mix every single week to give myself that variety I need, but I'm also getting, a ton of vegetables in there. So I want you to think about, as you kind of like try to wrap your head around this whole flexible dieting, it's like, what are the things that, aren't on everyone's diet list, right? So, maybe you need to have 2 squares of chocolate every day. Maybe you need to have, once a week, you need to have a mocha from your favorite coffee shop. I don't know what it is, but we all need to have those like 1 or 2 things that keep us sane. then we need to have that, balance, that moderation. We need to have that one or two things that are healthy and sustainable. My salad, I can have a salad anywhere on this planet. Maybe Antarctica might be a stretch. But most places on this planet, I can go in and order a salad with some type of protein on it and be happy as a clam. So I want you to think about that. And, also as you're looking at nutrition, are you someone who's going to meal prep? Or, do you have to meal prep, or can you pull together pieces to create that meal prep program? And, does it require a certain amount of workouts? There's this new workout, I can't remember the name of it, and someone was asking about it, where it requires you to work out 2 times a day for 45 minutes each round. So for 90 minutes. Well, back in the day, I used to work out 2 hours. Like that was like my bare minimum. And if I didn't work out 2 hours, it's like, why work out? But now I'm like 45 minutes, 2 times a day. Oh, kill me. I just, that's just not in my wheelhouse. I can give you 45 minutes, no problem. But 45 minutes, 2 times a day. Oh, heck no. That ain't happening. So I need you to be honest with yourself. And I'm not talking who can't do anything for 30 days, right? I'm saying, what can you do? Give me a year. Look at it on a long horizon and look for a year. And if you're ready for an alternative to diet, ready to really look at this flexibility, I created a report, the four alternatives to dieting. And so you can find that on my website. It's bit.ly, bit.ly/alternatives4, the number 4. And that is all I have for you this week. I'll be back in 2 weeks, and I'm going to be talking all about